Hello all. So today we'll be talking about a question that came from community on one of the video that I have surrounding how do you actually change object and field prefix. And to be very clear, this came from one of the reels or the shorts that you call them in YouTube, uh, where there were some questions around, can I do this or can I not do this? So I thought let's do a detailed video if somebody needs it. So if you're following me on YouTube and you're watching these shorts, and if you have any other questions on any of the short which need a detailed explanation, just add a comment and I'll try to make it as soon as possible. Okay. So let's first understand why a prefix and what a prefix is. And to understand, we'll have to go back in history, and that is Dynamics Nav or Business Central 14. I don't know how big you can see this right now, but in a NAV word, let's say just pick a table, customer, price group, let's say, and there's nothing. There are these fields, and if you had to add a custom field, what you'll do is you will add if ID in your range, and you will call it, let's say, posting date. Okay, and then you'll choose a data type as date. Now, let's assume there was a Business Central 15 CAL. Let's assume, or let's assume this is NAV 4. Okay, where you added this field at 50,000, and then in NAV 2009, Microsoft decided to make it as a field. So what they will do, they will add a field somewhere, let's say 11, and call it as posting date and of data type data. So while you were upgrading from NAV4 to 2009, you will end up with an error message that there are two fields with the same name, and you need to fix that. So what we used to do typically in the old NAV days, we'll say, oh, that's Microsoft added this field. I'll just call it posting day 2. And that was solved. And the data remained there. If a customer needed data to be moved, we would write some script to move this data from this field to this field and then drop this field. This was typical NAV style of customization. And the other example is maybe you create a table, okay, and you name that table as, sorry, you name that table number at 50,000 and name it as item sales. Let's assume that table did not exist back then in NAV4. And in future, Microsoft created that table at a different ID for sure. As soon as you upgrade, it'll cause a problem again. And then what you'll do, you will say item sales 2 or item sales custom. And that will solve the problem for the on-prem or the NAV word. Now, when you think it from Business Central perspective, and that's where prefix become important. Not from an on-premise spectrum, as in you should think from an on-premise extension, but as Microsoft says, that on-prem follows the SaaS rule. So let's think from the SaaS perspective. Going back to NAV screen again, and canceling this while and going back to the same table where we were. If this was the situation in a Business Central SaaS environment, then what would have happened in the next upgrade? Your upgrade would have failed because of your customization. And then think about ISVs or solutions that you deploy. They might also have a field like this. So it'll cause a lot of confusion and a lot of destructive changes in the SaaS world because you can't just rename your field in Business Central SaaS or even on-prem, right? So to solve this problem, Microsoft came up with a very clear statement, which is that every partner should register a prefix with Microsoft. And when I say register, you need to send an email. Microsoft gives you a 3-word prefix, which then will be assigned on all your customization. And that will make sure that it never happens. A situation like NAV will never happens because let's say my prefix is XYZ. So if I call it posting date, XYZ posting date, Microsoft will add a field called posting date. This will never conflict with me. If an ISV also have a posting date and they are called ABC, So their posting date will be called ABC posting date. And that will never conflict with any field from Microsoft. Hopefully that's clear. And when you are thinking from a table perspective, then you can use the names of the field in a table without your prefix, but you need to append the prefix on the table name because fields are related to table. This situation where you have to append the prefix is only in case of table extension. And in case of new table, you just append your prefix on the object name or the table name. That way it becomes unique to your extension. So hopefully now we understand where we apply the prefix, and then now will come how you change it in Business Handle. So a prefix need to be assigned to all the fields in table extension and only on the table name if it is a new table. And then if it is on the table, then it'll follow on the page and page extension, and it'll follow on the code unit, and so on and so forth. So the two places where you need to make sure that you have a prefix assigned is on all the fields in the table extension and on the table names for all your custom tables to save the conflict that may occur, that will occur in SAS someday. You don't know when, which may occur would be the right word, but it can occur anytime, right? So coming back to the example or the question that we had, let me show you a demo that I have. Okay. So here is an example where I, as a partner or a developer, knew that I have a prefix, and I need to make sure that it is assigned to all my new objects in the same way on my tables. If you notice, it is not on the fields, it's only on the table name, and it's on the page name or on the object name. When we talk about extensions, it's also on the object name of extension and on each of the field, which is sourced from the table extension. So in the customer table, I have these three fields, and all these three fields have this prefix assigned. Now remember, I did not do it because this is just a demo, but whenever you write a field, you should define a caption without the prefix because you don't want your user to see your prefix, which doesn't look good on the screen. So you should always use a caption without your prefix. That way, your prefix will remain behind the scene and user will only see the field name or the table name or the page name or any other name, right? In the same way, when I create a code unit, I should have done it here, but let's do it here also when I'm here with you. So I'm a developer who knows about it, everything. I'm very clear about it that this is my table name with a prefix, this is my new object name, everything is correct. But let's say you are building an extension and you by mistakenly use the wrong prefix, and now you are pretty deep into it. You have thousands of objects, thousands is a big number, but let's say hundreds of objects, and you don't want to mess it up. And that's where the reel that I made or the short that I made, we talked about an extension. And let me see. I guess that was AL code action. Let me see. Okay, let me just see that there is a prefix change. ALTB. ALTB. Okay. No, not this. Which one was that? AL. Okay, let's see. AL toolbox. ALTB. Okay. ALTB is the extension called AL toolbox from Brat. If I'm spelling it correctly, I'm speaking it wrong. Sorry. Which gives you other features, but it also gives you a way to change your object prefix, and that's what we are talking about today. Okay. So now you are deep into this project, you have made so many objects, and somebody comes and tells you that, oh, it was not PDH, it was STH. And you have it in so many objects already. So what do you do using this extension for VS Code? You just go to command prompt and search for change object prefix. Okay. As soon as you click on that, it asks you what is your current prefix. Now my current prefix at this point is PDH. And I would like to replace PDH with the new prefix called SDH because that's my correct prefix. And I hit enter. And do you want to change the prefix setting on JSON? If yes, that's okay. Otherwise, say no. And you will notice that all the objects has been renamed, and you see the highlight here. 3 fields and 5 objects has been changed. What it did? Let's start from table. It went into it, changed the PDS to STH, and nothing need to be changed here. Same on the page, it went and changed it here and here. Same on the page extension, it went and changed it here. Same on table extension, it did change here. And even in the code unit where you are referring to it on a variable, here and here, it updated that. So if you made a mistake while creating your objects and you did not use the right prefix, you can still do it using this command. But now let's come to the question. The question is actually into the second demo window. Let me add it. Where I forgot to define my prefix. I created a table extension, I did not append the prefix. I created a page extension, I forgot to append any prefix. I created a page, forgot to use the prefix, and same for page extension and code units. I use it nowhere. And now I learned about this, that this is important. Now there is a catch on this, as in you can still use the PowerShell the extension to fix it, but there's a catch in it that it does not work with the new objects, as in it is not supposed to be used like that. But I'm kind of hacking it out at this moment. It just identifies the pattern and start changing it everywhere. So if you see this table, this the name is sample table, and then each field has the name. Now I've started utilizing that the same command here and say change object prefix. And now here's the hack. You don't need to specify on anything on the current prefix, but then in the new prefix, I'll say SDH and in space. I need a space between the field name and that. And I click enter and say no. The problem, it's not the problem of the command, to be very fair, right? It's the problem how we are dealing with it, right? Because it did not had a prefix. If you look at it from the table extension perspective, it made it SES customer, which is great. And for each field, it did add a prefix. Great. If you look at from page extension, it does it great. Same, appends it here, appends it everywhere else. But when you look at from the table perspective, that's where it gets a little bit messier, where it adds it on the table, but because it did not build in a way to kind of assign a prefix, it is built for changing a prefix, it also assign it on all the fields. Now that's where the problem is. Okay. Same on the pages, it did append here and also assign it here. And in the code unit, it did as it is expected to be. But what we want to do is we don't want to make it on the field level, on the table and pages, which can be time consuming to kind of revert it back, right? So what you should be doing, and let me open my or revert the demo one so that I can show you the other part of the hack. So let me delete demo one and restore it. Okay. So that we can see how, because yes, if you have objects, so many new objects, it can be time consuming, but then you need to decide what is more important, right? So let's bring it here. I just refreshed this again. I had the zip file for this, so I was able to refresh this. Let me open that with VS Code, and now we are back to square zero where we started from. None of the object have prefix right now. The table have no prefixes at this moment. If you look, same for the pages and page extension, right? Now the catch here is that as we saw that it updates the new object. So what you have to do is anything that is new object, either you comment that out before you run it, and let's do that, or move those file out from your folder. So what I can do is I can just pick the page file and the table file because that will be overlapping. Cut this and put it outside here on demo, outside demo 1, hopefully here. Yeah. Now I have only extension object and the new objects. That's what I have. And this might fail because the table is not here at this moment. And this might kind of break more or less at this point. And the page is not here, which is expected. But right now, if I run my change object prefix tool and say my current is blank and my new is SDH space and hit enter, it will go ahead and update it everywhere as expected, right? Okay, let's save this. Okay, so what happened on the table extension? It added the prefix. On the page extension, it added the prefix as it is supposed to be, and even on the coordinate, it added the prefix, but not on these tables. Now, this is something that you will have to deal manually because it did not find the reference of the object. It will not update that, but let's bring those table back in. Now I have the sample table back in. Now what I have to do is I have to change this name and then the page name and then the references here. The cool part of Visual Studio Code is if you try to rename, and this is how you do it. You click F2. Remember F2, not Control F2, which you might have seen on a reel. You just hit F2. F2 opens this. Now, when you change the object name by using F2, the VS Code automatically finds all the references to this object and updates every reference. So before I change it, let's look in this code unit. This is still called sample table. It is referring to this table name, not the number. So what I'll do is I'll click F2 and say here, change this to SDH. What will happen? The table name will change. The source table of the page will have the new name and the code unit variable for the table will also have the new name. So let's hit enter and let's go back to the code unit and you will notice that this got changed. Also in the page, it got changed. So in this model, when you are dealing or manually updating your fields, make sure whenever you update, like if I'm updating this page, I don't have to think twice. I'll just click F2 and then do a SDH or my prefix, whatever it is, and hit enter. So anywhere this page is referred, which is here, will also get updated. So that's how you can utilize it to assign the prefix on the project where you might have forgot it because you were new. So before I leave you from this, let's quickly summarize what we learned. There is an extension in VS Code called AL Toolbox, if I remember it correctly. Let me go back and verify that. Okay, it's called AL Toolbox. Where is that? Here. Install that extension, AL Toolbox, which allows you to search a command for change object prefix. If you are changing the object prefix from old prefix to the new prefix or incorrect prefix to the right prefix, then you can use it as it is. There are three questions that being asked: current prefix, new prefix, and do you want to update settings.json? That's optional. Okay. But if you have to assign the prefix, then make sure that you copied all your new objects file, which normally in all of the partners ecosystem, I hope, are grouped in different folders. That pages are in a different folder, tables are in a different folder, table extension in a different folder. Just place those folder outside of your project, apply or run the extension command for change object prefix. In the current prefix, say blank. In the new prefix, define your prefix within space so that it updates all the table extensions, page extensions and all. And then you bring your new objects back into the project and there you use the rename, which is done using F2. When you utilize F2 rename in VS Code, it automatically updates any reference to that object in your project. So when you start changing your table names and page names, it will automatically update the references in different areas in your project. So hope that answers the question that somebody had on that reel, and you also learned something new while watching this video. If you did, then hit the like button. If you think the knowledge about prefix is very important and everybody should know it in the community, do share this video on your social media so that it gets more reach and more audience and we start building the extensions in the right way. If you like the work that we are doing, I'll request you to please subscribe to the channel, and I'll come back with the next video as soon as possible. Do watch, do follow, do look at the shorts that I'm building here and there on YouTube channel. If you had any questions on those shorts, add them into the comment section. I read all my comments, and most of the video ideas are coming from those comment sections. So thank you for those comments that are making these videos come as frequently as they are coming. And I'll see you sooner than later on the next video. Thank you.